Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, we have Patel, Executive Director of Elevandi, to discuss key themes we're going to be covering at the Singapore Fintech Festival, including policy, finance, and technology, and of course, the intersection of those three themes. Pat, it is great to see you as always. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thank you very much. It feels like an annual kind of pilgrimage when we catch up because it's just before the festival. So always a pleasure to be on the show.
And we appreciate that. My favorite place on the planet to go is Singapore. Let's talk about the vision behind Singapore Fintech Festival central theme this year. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So the way we've been seeing things is that the importance of bringing policymakers, regulators together with financial services leaders and technologists has never been greater. You know, the world is facing a number of challenges on how we adopt technology, but also how do we move forward in terms of policy roadmaps. And so the only way that we see at the Singapore Fintech Festival, and certainly it's a core of what Elevandi does, is to bring these groups together, find the right dialogues that need to happen, and really ensure that there is an alignment because so much is required. If you think about policymakers, regulators, some would say that they're a few steps behind where the industry is. Some would say 100 steps behind. And so there is a big job there to kind of bring a lot of these policymakers and regulators from different jurisdictions around the world in sync with what's going on. And then conversely, those that are building new products on the tech or the financial services side, for them to really understand what these roadmaps will start to look like and also to build in the right way. Because as we've seen in recent years, there's been a lot of building going on, but not necessarily responsibly. And so one of the big thematics throughout this is around responsibility, because we have that responsibility as an industry to progress, and we need to do so in the right way and make sure that when we're leveraging new technologies, we're doing so with people at its heart.
And Pat, I understand there's 4 key sub-themes that are occurring at Singapore Fintech Festival this year. Explain what they are and why they're important to the themes.
Yeah, it's essential to that policy meets finance meets technology kind of overarching kind of narrative that we'll have at the festival. The first one is around re-architecting the monetary system or the financial services system. And that is largely to do with ensuring that the basic things we want to do with money, whether you want to spend it, save it, share it, lend it, or even borrow it and manage it, are easy and accessible because we have 1.4 billion that are underbanked or unbanked, and we have countless others that are underbanked. And so essentially, we want to make sure that there is a fairer and transparent financial services system. And with the advent of lots of technologies now, whether it's CBDCs or stable coins, we now have the ability to do these things. And so there is a big narrative around those payment products that can kind of travel within markets, but also across multiple borders. And then there is the foundational digital infrastructure. So when we talk about this, it's similar to what India has built and Singapore has built in terms of a digital identity layer, which is coupled with a series of payment systems and then attached to kind of different forms of data exchange, whether it's financial or non-financial, and then wrapped around a consent architecture framework. And so when you have these 4 layers, it gives you the fundamentals of any digital economy and allows you to do the simple things with money that everyone wants to do. And then there is a fairer way for that to happen in terms of price, in terms of speed, and also transparency. And so that's kind of the major kind of topic that we'll be covering. The others revolve around kind of risk. And so, you know, the world is facing a lot of risk at the moment, whether it's economical, technological, even kind of geopolitical risks. And so how can we leverage technologies to support the challenges that we're seeing? And if you think about some of the issues that the world has faced towards the end of last year and this year in financial services, you know, we need to have a discussion around risk management. You know, how are businesses managing risks, not just for yesterday, but today and tomorrow? Because a lot of frameworks that are in place are probably fit for purpose for yesterday. And so there'll be a lot of discussions around that. And then the third area is all about kind of building a talent pipeline, because one of the things that the world has suffered from, certainly since COVID, is entrepreneurship and kind of the SME sector in multiple markets, but also supporting the next wave of talent. And so at the festival, we'll have a whole raft of activities to support students, but also to support those that are looking to upskill and reskill. And then obviously we'll be supporting entrepreneurship through various different programs to help those on the journey, whether it's mentoring or even VC investment. So we'll be running some office hours as well. And so that's going to be a really big piece to support the next wave of not just talent, but also entrepreneurship. And then the last one, which is kind of a really important one, is around the applications of AI and the whole question that is artificial intelligence good? Is it good for the world? And what are some of the critical issues that we need to overcome? Because if we let something just roam without any guardrails as such, we're going to face similar challenges that the world faced during the Web 2 movement with some of these big social media platforms that have created some issues, not just in the US, but in Europe and also in China. And so getting that alignment between, the policy side of how we should be thinking about AI, but also not ensuring that we don't inhibit advancements and innovation. And so that alignment you'll see through a series of roundtables, but also dialogues that will happen both in the open forums, but also behind closed doors, where you'll have the right individuals talking about how do we move forward in terms of generative AI, but also the overarching kind of artificial intelligence in financial services.
Let's talk about some of the program highlights at Singapore Fintech Festival for 2023. What's new and unique about this year's edition?
Yeah, so we have some amazing leaders coming along as always. It's a real privilege and an honor to have the president of Singapore speaking. So President Thurman. We also have Kristalina, the managing director of the IMF, and then Ajay from the World Bank. So the president of the World Bank will be here as well, and that really sets the scene for the dialogues that are likely to happen throughout the week. And when we think about this, it's that nexus again of policy, finance, and tech. In addition to all of these things and these great speakers and content, we're also going to have a TV show that's going to start its filming during the week of SFF. And so what we've managed to do is bring a program called The Big Spark, which is very similar to kind of like a Shark Tank and a Dragon's Den. And we'll be bringing that to the Singapore Fintech Festival. So the filming will start throughout the week of the festival, run all the way to the end of the year. And then we'll start kind of airing, I think around early February. And the whole premise of this is to shine a spotlight on entrepreneurship in Southeast Asia and hopefully attract a little bit more investment, because as you know, Southeast Asia is a growing area. You've got Indonesia just on the doorstep of Singapore, which is the third or fourth largest market in terms of population size. You have Thailand, Malaysia, Vietnam, and lots of interesting kind of developments happening in that part of the world. And so there will be a lot of opportunities there. We also have the Founders Peak, which will be running throughout the week. And what we've done here is pick some of the brightest founders from early stage to growth stage to share their untold stories, basically the pivotal moments that have got them to where they are in their journey. And the hope here is that sharing that entrepreneurial wisdom will spur on the next generation. And so that's a really interesting program that we're looking forward to. And then before the festival starts, we have a curtain raiser, as we're calling it. So on the Tuesday, the 14th of November, so literally a week today, we'll be having a series of kind of public-private roundtables in partnership with the IMF, in partnership with the World Bank, as well as the World Economic Forum. And we'll be running these kind of public-private dialogues to really address some of the challenges we're seeing, but also capitalize on the opportunities as well. So it's going to be a fun-packed week, lots of insight, and you're probably going to need a bit of rest towards the end of the week once it's all finished.
All right, Pat, we appreciate the insight as always, and of course, the opportunity to be an annual media partner at the Singapore Fintech Festival. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.